Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my quarterback start or sit decisions for week number 5. Inside of today's video, I'll be going in depth into every single matchup from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the quarterbacks in every single game. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. I would also like to ask that if you guys have any questions about week number 5 for fantasy football, to please make sure that you ask them down below in the comments section. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 5 quarterback start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos, and in this game, the only quarterback I really want to be starting is Russell Wilson. Now, week 1 up against the Seattle Seahawks, obviously the Broncos end up losing in embarrassing fashion because instead of calling a bunch of timeouts and trying to push the ball up the field and potentially kick like a 30-yard field goal, they attempt a field goal from the fucking moon, and they lose to the Seattle Seahawks in a revenge game for Russell Wilson. So obviously, that sucked. But Russell Wilson still put up solid fantasy numbers. But then the next 2 weeks, not very good at all for Russell Wilson's fantasy football numbers. But last week, he did bounce back. He is banged up right now, which obviously isn't the best news. You would prefer for Russell Wilson to be fully healthy in this game. But the Indianapolis Colts defense has been a disaster, just like their offense. So I think even a banged up version of Russell Wilson gets it done on Thursday Night Football. I definitely don't think he will finish inside the top 5 at his position this week, but I certainly believe he will be a top 12 quarterback. Matt Ryan has actually been sneaky good for fantasy football. In real life, the Colts haven't been very good. He hasn't looked the best, but he continues to put up a solid number of passing yards, and that's kind of elevating him to being a quote-unquote fantasy relevant quarterback. But if you're in a normal 10 or 12 team league, like if you're not in a deep 14, 16 team league, then there's really no need to start Matt Ryan. Could he have a decent game here up against the Broncos defense? Maybe he could, but he lost Jonathan Taylor. Things aren't the best here for the Colts, and I think Matt Ryan ultimately struggles. Thus, that is why he is a sit for me this week. Russell Wilson to start. Matt Ryan is a sit. Next up, we move to the New York Football Giants at the Green Bay Packers. The Giants right now, their quarterback room is in dismay. Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. Daniel Jones gets hurt. Now, could Daniel Jones play on Sunday? Maybe, but I'm saying that is far from a lock. So whether it ends up being Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor, I don't think it's going to be Tyrod Taylor. Then maybe it ends up being like Jake Fromm. Whichever fucking McDonald's employee it ends up being for the New York Football Giants in this game is going to end up being a sit for me, especially up against the Packers defense. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been playing to that MVP caliber he played at last year as well as the season before because he's the back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97 MVP in the NFL, but that doesn't mean that he's like dust or something, that he's this bad quarterback. He looked decent up against the Patriots. The Giants defense has been pretty solid, definitely much better than I thought that they would be, but I don't really think they offer much of a challenge to Aaron Rodgers. It seems like Allen Lazard and Romeo Doubs are really catching on for this Packers offense, so I think Aaron Rodgers gets it done. Again, I find it hard to rank him inside like the top 5 or the top 10 because I think if this game gets out of hand, they're just going to start running the ball a million times with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but I still think Aaron Rodgers is definitely worthy of a start this week. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills, and no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So congratulations to Kenny Pickett for finally starting in the NFL. Small hands Kenny Pickett. Now, he rolled the dice and got potentially the worst possible time to start. Sure, he got to play up against the Jets last week in a game they ultimately lost. I didn't think he looked all that great, but people are on Twitter just sucking this guy off. Their knees are all dirty from getting down on the ground for Kenny Pickett. It doesn't make too much sense to me. He looked okay. I'm not saying he looked awful, but it seems like he's getting way too much praise in my opinion. But now his next couple of matchups, if you look at the schedule, now I don't have it memorized off the top of my dome, but what I do remember from it is the fact that this schedule is incredibly rough. It is a very bad stretch of games for the Steelers. Now, I understand they definitely would have gotten skull-fucked if it was Mitch Trubisky under center. They're probably going to get skull-fucked with Kenny Pickett under center, but it's tough to throw the kid out there and he's just going to get beat the ever-living shit out of. So I do feel slightly for Kenny Pickett. Josh Allen, obviously, he's a must start every single week. This matchup up against the Pittsburgh Steelers should be cupcake for Josh Allen. Next up, we move to the LA Superchargers at the Cleveland Browns, and Justin Herbert, the pervert. What a matchup. What a game last week up against the Houston Texans. Justin Herbert looked amazing in that game. It seems like that injury that he suffered wasn't even a big deal for him. Now, obviously, they were playing up against the Houston Texans defense, which is as soft as baby shit, so maybe that's why we saw Justin Herbert, the pervert, have such a good game, and maybe up against a defense like the Browns, who I don't necessarily see as world-beating defenses, but definitely a huge step up from the Houston Texans, then maybe Justin Herbert struggles a little bit more. But I think in this game, even with the injury, even though he is definitely still banged up, you want to roll out Justin Herbert every single week. And it might be a big positive if he gets back his number one wide receiver, Keenan Allen, in this game. But his health is up in the air. I thought he was coming back last week. I thought he was coming back the week before that. Now this would be week number 3 of him being out. So I'm just going to assume that he's coming back. But again, nothing is a lock at this point with Keenan Allen. Jacoby Brissett has looked good, and I want to give him credit where it is earned. When the credit is earned, I will give it to him. I thought, personally, Jacoby Brissett was going to suck complete and utter donkey cock for fantasy football and in real life because I, as a Dolphins fan, watched Jacoby Brissett stink it up for the Dolphins last year when Tua Tagovailoa went down. Jacoby Brissett was no bueno. He was making all of these bad decisions, but now he looks like a new quarterback in Cleveland. So that's great for him. The Chargers defense didn't look very good up against Houston, but I do believe personally, since just looking at the defense on paper, they are extremely good. They should be better. I think they bounce back here up against the Browns, and Jacoby doesn't have as good of a game. Now, Jacoby could still have a decent game, but I don't think he ends up being start-worthy. I think the Browns are going to try to keep running the ball with 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, because when they run the ball, that's when their offense works the best. Next up, we got the Houston Texans, who we've just talked about, at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Davis Mills will continue to be the starter of the team. That was announced yesterday, as if that's some news fucking worthy thing, right? Like, obviously, Davis Mills is going to be the starter. They're not just going to pivot to some rando. Davis Mills has been decent. He's in a situation where he's set up to fail. So the fact that he is playing decent, like he's not a dumpster fire quarterback, is a huge plus for Davis Mills. I think Davis Mills is a start-worthy or a starting quarterback caliber player in the NFL. Now, is he going to be the starter next year for the Texans? More than likely, no. Team can't even win a fucking game, so more than likely no. But I do think Davis Mills, again, I'm not giving him a crazy amount of credit, but he's better than people give him the credit for. Trevor Lawrence has looked really good through the first 4 games of the season. Now, last week they go up against the Philadelphia Eagles, and that defense is insane. That defense is fucking amazing. They might be the single best defense in the NFL. So the fact that Lawrence didn't put up a crazy point total in fantasy football should not have surprised you really at all. I told you guys to sit Trevor Lawrence last week. While he has looked good, the matchup was just too strong. This week, we got the polar opposite of the pendulum. Last week, we have this super stout, this super tough Eagles defense, like tip top, like top of the charts. And then we got the Texans, who are all the way down here. Now, my hands at the bottom of the screen, in reality, they're underneath the screen. They're not even anywhere close to the level of the Philadelphia Eagles. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a fucking field day picking apart this defense. He is going to slice and dice them up like some tomatoes. I expect a big game out of Mr. T-Law. Next up, we move to the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Fields is an auto sit. Until this team genuinely commits to throwing the fucking football at a higher rate, there's no way you can start Justin Fields. Now, could Justin Fields have a good game here up against the Vikings because he runs into touchdowns or something? Definitely. But do you really see that outcome actually unfolding? Like, what is the likelihood where Fields actually has a decent enough passing game and then runs in a couple touchdowns? It doesn't seem very likely, especially up against the Minnesota Vikings defense that has looked pretty solid in my opinion. I don't think they're like a top 3 defense in the NFL, but I do think that they are one of the better defenses in the NFL. The Chicago Bears defense isn't very good at all, so I think Kirk Cousins will really have no issue having a big game here. This is another one of those games where Kirk Cousins is playing at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where he's wide awake. He's not super tired like sleepy Kirk Cousins will be on a Sunday night football game. So here, midday is the perfect time to be starting Kirk Cousins. The Minnesota Vikings are definitely looking significantly better than they looked a couple weeks ago on that Monday night football game because, again, Kirk Cousins just sucks ass in prime time. This is a 1 o'clock game. I expect Kirk to play good, and Justin Fields, you shouldn't even have him on your fucking roster at this point unless you're in like a 2-quarterback league. And even then, you're probably not going to start him. You're going to just play like Geno Smith or something. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions at the New England Deflatriots. And Jared Goff has literally destroyed all the expectations that people had on him. Jared Goff could lead the league in fucking passing yards at the end of the season. This Lions offense is amazing, and they weren't even at full strength last week up against the Seahawks. But Nick, they lost the game. Okay, they put up a million fucking points. The reason why the Lions are losing is not because Jared Goff is bad or because this offense is bad. It's because the defense is putrid. That defense is awful. Bailey Zappi might be the starting quarterback of the Patriots this week. I don't think it's going to be Brian Hoyer. Mac Jones was practicing today. He's putting some weight on his ankle. Do I think that Mac Jones is going to play? Probably not. Like, if you're the Patriots and you're playing up against the Lions, a game you should probably easy win. You are a big favorite in this game, and Bailey Zappi is the starting quarterback. Why would you risk it with Mac Jones? Like, I understand your record isn't the best if you're the Patriots, but you have a solid stretch of games where you might be able to win a couple games. Why are you going to risk Mac Jones? You want Mac Jones to be back for the hard games. Now, again, I don't think Mac Jones is the second coming of one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I just don't believe that, personally, from what I've seen. Now, this is only year 2 for Mac Jones, so I haven't, when Geno Smith was like, they wrote me something about me, but I ain't write back. Like, I'm not closing the fucking book on Mac Jones, right? He can still improve. But what I'm saying is right now, I don't think he's that great. But it's pretty evident that he's better than these other quarterbacks that they have. So if I am Bill Belichick, I'm sitting Mac Jones in this game. But we all know there's a chance that Mac Jones could play. Jared Goff, again, has been looking unreal. And like I said, that wasn't even the full team. They're without Swift. They're without Amon-Ra St. Brown. And they're still without Jameson Williams, who could be coming back, I don't think soon, but could be returning in the next couple of weeks. And when that happens, and they have St. Brown, they didn't have Chark last week. So St. Brown, Chark, Jameson Williams, DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, who went absolutely fucking insane. He took the Seattle Seahawks and just took them for a ride. Jared Goff could be a top 5 fantasy finisher. Now, he doesn't have any rushing upside, so it's going to be hard. It's an uphill battle for Goff. But any week, I'm definitely starting him. The Patriots defense is stout, but I think that Jared Goff still gets it done. Next up, speaking of the Seahawks, we got the Seahawks at the New Orleans Saints. Now, famous Jameis Winston was out, so we got the Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle experience in England last week. That game, I didn't watch the whole game, I'll just be honest with you, because I was live streaming. I live stream every Sunday before the games at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, all the way up until lock at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I was live during the game. I was getting updates. The chat was like, oh, fuck, double doink, or Justin Jefferson scored. So I watched like the first half, didn't watch too much of the second half, because obviously when there's a million questions happening, I'm trying to pay attention to that and not necessarily watching the game. But I did look at the box score. I watched what I saw on Twitter. I watched the highlights of the game, and obviously, Andy Dalton doesn't look the best. They did mix in Taysom Hill at some point. If Jameis starts, though, based upon how awful the Seahawks defense is and how they just got taken for a fucking ride by the Detroit Lions, I think Jameis Winston can get it done. But it definitely determines, or this pick determines, based upon how healthy Jameis is. Because we get to Sunday, and it's like, oh, Jameis is playing hurt, then fuck it, I'm not playing Jameis. But if Jameis is 100% healthy, then I'm rolling with Jameis up against the Seahawks. Geno Smith deserves a lot of apologies from many people, including myself. Geno Smith looks great. It's funny to see, like, Pete Carroll seems so happy. Like, he's chomping his gum on the sideline, just smiling from ear to ear, just having a great fucking time. Like, is Russell Wilson really that much of a weirdo? Like, with the Danger Witch? Are you dangerous? Like, he's a fucking weirdo, Mr. Unlimited. Like, did he just... Like, while he's a great player, not denying that, is he a bad vibes guy for this locker room? Because Geno seems like the king in Seattle. Geno's looking great. The Saints defense realistically should be tough, right? This should be a tough matchup for Sir Geno Smith, but the Saints defense hasn't looked all that tough, right? So I think Geno gets it done again. Is Geno like a must-start quarterback? Neither of these guys are, but I could see why you might want to put him in, and I think they're definitely top 18 quarterbacks, which makes them a start. Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jumbo Jets. Zach Wilson hits the fucking gritty of the year in the end zone after getting the MILF special, is what I'll call it. It was the Philly special from Braxton Berrios to Zach Wilson. That was awesome to see. Zach Wilson led a great drive at the end of the game. Cool and all, but I think the Dolphins defense is a different breed from the Steelers. Now, the Steelers without TJ Watt, because with TJ Watt, like, it just takes their defense to the next level. I understand he's only one player, but he just elevates them to this next level. The Dolphins defense, Xavier Howard's banged up. He might miss. If Xavier Howard misses, that concerns me a lot. Byron Jones should be returning this week, or he should have returned this week, but it seems like, based upon the press conference I watched a little bit ago, that Mike McDaniel doesn't want to rush him back, and that maybe he isn't going to play on Sunday. Again, just another concern. But do you really want to sip the Kool-Aid on Zach Wilson in a division matchup against the Dolphins? I understand the Dolphins defense got the shit beat out of them on Thursday by the Bengals. Dolphins defense, which normally looks good, like they look great against the Bills, they got fucking bent over a table and fucked into the night by the Bengals without even the common courtesy of, like, the Bengals didn't even spit or anything, not even lube. They just got destroyed, okay? And it is what it is. It is what it is. As a Dolphins fan, I try to give genuine takes, right? I'm not just saying I don't like Zach Wilson because I think the Dolphins are going to roll the Jets because I like the Dolphins, right? That's not the takes I give here. I try to give very fair and genuine takes without any bias. Zach Wilson looked decent. He gets a lot of credit for a fourth quarter. He looked shit the rest of the game. So I don't think I trust Zach Wilson here because I think the Dolphins defense is better than what we saw on Thursday Night Football, even with the injuries. But if X is out, Xavier Howard, then I will be genuinely concerned for the Dolphins defense. Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Roosevelt himself of the Miami Dolphins. The Jets defense looks decent. Sauce Gardner looks amazing. I will give him credit. Sauce Gardner was definitely worth the pick that the Jets fucking spent on him because this guy looks like one of the best DBs in the NFL already, and it's only year one. Now, eventually, someone's going to cook this man and score a touchdown on him. It might be this week because Sauce Gardner is excellent at staying with these receivers, but I don't think Sauce Gardner can keep up with the speed, Lightning McQueen style of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I just don't really see that. I think Teddy Bridgewater has a good game. I would definitely prefer Tua to be the starter. Tua could piece apart this Jets defense. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater will have all that great of a game, but I do think he's start worthy. Not a top 12 guy, but definitely inside my top 18. Next up, we move to the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we break down this game, like the marriage of Giselle and Tom Brady ended up coming to a close here, or breaking up would have been the better word there. That wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be. I couldn't piece together the joke in my head, but I got to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. And they'll never let you down like Tom Brady let down his wife. So, Underdog Fantasy, if you use promo code Stokastic, they will give you a $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100 on there, they will give you an additional $100. Now, the best thing about Underdog is that it's best ball. The best thing about best ball is that you don't have to worry about all of the complex parts about fantasy football. All you got to do is draft the team, and that's it. So they have this week 6 through week 17 Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. $10 to enter, $100,000 to first place, $500,000 in total prizes. And what I mean by it takes all the complicated stuff out of fantasy football is you just draft a team for week 6 through 17. You just draft the team. That's it. They automatically will set your lineup for you with the highest scoring players at the end of the week. So you don't have to worry about adjusting your lineup. You can't do that. You don't have to worry about going on the waiver wire, staying up all on Tuesday night, like perusing through the waivers just to sit there for hours because you're in like 7,000 different leagues. You also don't have to worry about trades because there's no trades. So the most fun part about fantasy football for me is the draft. I love the fucking draft. I hate setting my lineup. I hate doing waivers. I hate making trades. So the most fun part about fantasy football without all of the annoying parts. And again, it's only $10 to enter, $100,000 to first place. So make sure you guys check it out. It is incredibly fun. I love underdog fantasy, and it's hard to get free money in fantasy football, in sports betting, anything like that. So the fact that they're going to give you $100 free if you deposit $100, make sure you take advantage of that, because that's also 10 free entries into the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. They also have stuff for every other sport that you might want to play, so make sure that you check that out. So back on into things. Again, we've made a bunch of Tom Brady jokes over the week. Maybe people are tired of hearing them at this point, and I'm sure Tom Brady is tired of hearing from Gisele's divorce lawyer. So here we are going to go with Tom Brady as a start. Now, you ever seen these memes on TikTok, or not a meme, I guess they're videos on TikTok? I'm a big TikTok guy. I love TikTok, but it's the video of like the guy where he's just sitting on the bench and he's like looking so locked in, and it's like his girlfriend just broke up with him before the game, and it's like there's this song and it's like it's kind of sad, but it's like, he's fired up now. That's what Tom Brady's feeling right now. He is fired up. Gisele just left him. Tom Brady is married to one thing, and that's the fucking game. Gisele can only give him one ring. TB12 just earns for more than that. He wants 10 fucking rings, so he's going to go out there and be a baller up against the Falcons. I feel bad for the Falcons defense because they are about to get their asshole ripped out. Just a brand new ass for Tom Brady. He's going to go insane. He really is. And even if his wife didn't divorce him, he'd probably still go crazy. But I just think that narrative makes it more fun to talk about. Marcus Mariota has been pretty good this season. Big down game last week up against the Browns. I'm not really too worried about Mariota. I think he's start worthy in a lot of games, but not against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers defense is just too good. Next up, we got the Les Titans at the Washington Commanders. Carson Wentz is a start, but he is the bottom of the barrel start. Like, I don't want to start Wentz. I dropped Wentz in one of my leagues. I don't know if it actually went through because I didn't check yet, but I cut Wentz and I picked up Trevor Lawrence, or at least I tried to in one of my leagues. So I definitely would prefer Trevor Lawrence over Wentz. The Commanders are no bueno. The Commanders are like Humpty Dumpty. They're falling off the wall. Carson Wentz isn't looking good. He tricked us. We've been hoodwinked by Carson Wentz the first couple of games, but the Titans defense isn't that good, so I feel like with all the weapons he has, he could have a decent game. But again, he's a bottom of the barrel start. He's not a guy that I'm advocating for. I'm not banging the drum aggressively like, holy shit, you need to start Carson Wentz. But there are a lot worse options than him. Ryan Tannehill is also kind of close to being a start. Like, if you told me, Nick, I want to play Tannehill over Wentz, then go ahead and do that, right? I'm not going to make a big argument about that. Tannehill has looked pretty good after those first couple games where things weren't the best. Next up, we got the 49ers at the Panthers, and while Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Porn Star went crazy up against the LA Rams, the 49ers just own the Rams in the regular season. In the playoffs, obviously, we saw what happened last year. Jaquiski, whatever the fuck that guy's name is, Tart, dropping the interception from Stafford, kind of sold that game. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the best in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he's a game manager, baby. He just throws the ball, gets the ball to Debo, and, he's going to score maybe a touchdown or two. Jeff Wilson will probably score. They're going to end up beating the Panthers by like 7 points. It'll feel like the 49ers won by 40, but they will actually have only won by like 7. That's kind of just how I feel this game goes. Baker Mayfield looks terrible. I like Baker Mayfield. I'm a fan of Baker Mayfield. And I don't know if it's all Baker Mayfield's fault. It might be Matt Rule's fault. We all know that Matt Rule is a certified fucking bozo. We need to get him one of those white dunce cap things that they used to wear in those old movies where it's like, that kid's an idiot or he did something wrong in class, and they wear that stupid white hat thing. I hope you get what I'm talking about. But yeah, Baker Mayfield just hasn't been playing good. Like, there's talks maybe when Sam Darnold comes back, he takes over. I hope that doesn't happen, because watching Sam Darnold, I think I would rather stab my eyes out. So Baker Mayfield is the guy for now. He's a sit for me. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I've went on diatribes for the last 2 videos, the running backs and receiver start-sit video, so make sure you guys check that out after this if you have not already seen that. Make sure you also hit that like button and that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. I edit that graphic onto the screen all the time because I hope that noise or the graphic makes people realize, like, hey, if you've been watching for 12 minutes, you probably like the video, so make sure you subscribe and like. That does really help me out a ton. So does leaving comments. So if you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below. But the Cardinals have been a disaster. That's kind of what I was talking about. The Cardinals, they start off every single game just flat-footed. Awful. And then eventually it starts to click in like the third and the fourth quarter. But You don't want that, especially against the Eagles, where the Eagles could step on your throat and blow your back out early on in the game, and then maybe you can't catch up. Cliff Kingsbury has been kind of a disaster, like I've been saying. Kyler still looks good, but it's because of those second half comebacks, not because of the start of the game, because at the start of the game, Kyler Murray comes up short just like his height, so kind of sucks, but I'm still going to play him. Jalen Hurts has been unreal. He's looking like the MVP potentially of the league. Personally, right now, if I had a vote, obviously, I'm not cool enough to have a fucking MVP vote. I don't even know how they actually vote on those things off the top of my head right now. But if I had a vote, I'd be voting for Lamar Jackson, but Jalen Hurts would be in second place. Jalen Hurts has been looking exquisite. Next up, we move to the Dallas Cowboys at the Rams, and in this one, I am done. I'm officially done. Friendship ended with Matthew Stafford, you motherfucker. Now, I looked at a bunch of rankings. I always look at the expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros, because when I'm making my own rankings, I make them on Fantasy Pros so I can see the expert consensus rankings, and people are still high on Matthew Stafford. Now, look, I understand, Stafford's bound to bounce back. They're on the Super Bowl hangover. Eventually, they're going to bounce back. Probably. Do I think they're going to suck ass all year? No. But right now, do you really want to roll him out up against the Dallas Cowboys? Like, the Dallas Cowboys defense has looked good. So the answer is no. I don't want to play him. Now, could Cooper Kupp still score 30 points against the Cowboys and Stafford play bad? Yes, we've seen that basically every week. Stafford playing awfully, abysmally bad, and yet Cooper Kupp is still fucking feasting like he's Ezekiel Elliott at Thanksgiving dinner. So I fully expect Matthew Stafford to shit the bed while Kupp still has a good game. Cooper Rush has been great for the Cowboys. He's 4-0 right now, undefeated as the starter of the Dallas Cowboys. So congratulations to Cooper Rush. I think that's dating back to last season in that Minnesota Vikings game that he played on prime time. I think that was Sunday Night Football, because I did Sunday Night Football live before lock for that over on the Stokastic DFS channel. I do that every single Sunday. If you want some additional content from me, maybe you're tired of watching the 4 o'clock games, you're like, you know what, let's listen to Nick, then go ahead and check that out. I always have fun on there. Me, E-Mac, and Terry. Cooper Rush is a decent quarterback. Like, I understand, obviously, Dak is better. It seemed like Jerry Jones was kind of alluding that Dak could come back. That doesn't end up coming to fruition, so we get Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is a decent real-life quarterback, but up against the Rams defense, I don't want to trust him in the hands of my fantasy team. Next up, we move to Sunday Night Football. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. In this game, who would have guessed it? You're going to start Lamar Jackson and Joe Shiesty. Now, the Bengals' offensive line through the first 2 games was a turnstile. They were literally it seemed like they had a hit out on fucking Joe Burrow. It was like the offensive line when RG3 got hurt. It was bad. It was really bad. And I'm laughing, not that like I'm laughing at RG3's injury. Obviously, that sucked, but it's just like so bad. It was so bad for those first 2 games. I could have fucking rush the quarterback and sack Joe Burrow. Obviously, I couldn't have done that. Obviously, it's a fucking joke. But yeah, Joe Burrow was getting plowed like his name was Mia Malkova back there. So I do expect Joe Burrow to get better. The offensive line has gotten better. They have a stacked roster offensively. Joe Mixon, Hayden Hurst, Jamar Chase, Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They've got great receivers. Burrow's going to have a good game. Lamar, especially since the Ravens defense is, you smell that? It smells like shit because that defense is awful. Lamar Jackson looking like the MVP of the league. I just said that before. If I had an MVP vote, I would vote for Lamar Jackson. He looks great. Looks amazing. Up against the Bengals defense, they look pretty decent against the Dolphins, but again, Tua was kind of slicing and dicing through him. He decided that, hey, this defense can't stop me, throws a stupid interception, but it is what it is. I think Lamar Jackson is going to look great in this game. Both of these guys could easily be top 3 quarterbacks at the end of the week. Final game here, Monday Night Football. We got to turn your volume down. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Derek Carr has a solid game up against the Broncos. Patrick Mahomes looked like a magician. Basically, anytime Mahomes plays, now I'm getting kind of tired of it. Now, I understand he deserves a lot of praise, right? I praise him too. But the way the announcers are just on their knees, gawk, just sucking this man's cock all game long. Just, their jaw doesn't even hurt. They're just going in for fucking however long a football game is. For the full 60 minutes, even though obviously the game's much longer than 60 minutes. I was trying to figure out how long the game actually takes on like a broadcast. It takes forever at times, especially on Monday Night Football games. But Mahomes was getting the Gawk 9000 special. It was crazy to see. But he's amazing. obviously. That one pass where he flicked the shit to CH hits the Jordan shrug. It was crazy. It was crazy to see. Mahomes is a fucking show off. He's a great quarterback, the best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe him and Josh Allen are the two best, besides Tua, of course. And Patrick Mahomes is crazy. So you're obviously going to start him. The Raiders defense looks to be no bueno. No bueno. So this should be a great matchup for Mahomes. Derek Carr, the Chiefs defense, looks stout up against Brady. They've looked a lot better than last year, but they're still not the best defense in the NFL, so I think Derek Carr will get it done. I'm hoping the Las Vegas Raiders really start kicking things into the next gear because the first couple of games for the Raiders was really bad. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. And make sure that if you have any questions about week number 5, you ask them down below in the comment section. Now, I don't always answer instantly. Normally, I take up some time towards the end of the night, and I just sit there for 30 minutes and answer like fucking 24 hours worth of questions. There's a lot of questions. Not surprisingly, you guys like to ask questions, which I like. I like talking to you guys down there, so I genuinely appreciate that. But if I don't answer your question instantly, just understand that I'm not blowing you off. I do try to answer as many questions as possible. I genuinely appreciate all of you guys. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your guys' day. We'll be back a little bit later on, maybe not soon, maybe in a couple hours with the tight end starter sit video. If you haven't seen the running back or receiver video, make sure you check that out. I love you guys all. I'm going to hit the outro. Have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.